And welcome to the Cowbell Kingdom Road Reaction post-game show. The 49ers losing to the Seattle Seahawks 23-7. Wait, that's wrong sport. I'm sorry.
Wrong sport. Wrong sport.
No, earlier tonight, though, the Sacramento Kings fell to the Oklahoma City Thunder by a score of 108-93. Of course, we delayed the broadcast of the Road Reaction post-game show because we know we have a lot of Kings fans who are also San Francisco 49ers fans, and that game just
be honest. Let's just be honest, John. We're smarter than the NBA. That's why. Because we don't schedule things in the middle of the NFC Championship.
And welcome to the Cowbell Kingdom Road Reaction post-game show. Gosh, I'm getting like extra feedback there. Sorry about that. All right, well, let's go ahead and look at our three things to watch here in this game, and we start with number one. Would the good Isaiah Thomas show up or the bad Isaiah Thomas show up? And tonight it was definitely the good Isaiah Thomas. He finished with 38 points, a career high on 11 of 18 shooting, 6 assists, 1 turnover, 4 of 8 from three-point territory. It was funny. I got it. You get text alerts from the great Daryl Arata from Kings Media Relations, and he had this really obscure stat. I mean, it's kind of stretching it in my opinion. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Isaiah Thomas joins 5 players to have scored greater than or equal to 38 points, 6 assists, and less than or equal to 18 field goal attempts and 1 turnover in a game. Michael Jordan, Jeff Hornacek, I think he's talking about Ron Harper, could be Derek Harper, I'm not sure, James Worthy, and maybe Terry Porter. So I thought that was a very obscure stat. I mean, when Isaiah, I guess when you can find a way to put Isaiah Thomas in the conversation with Michael Jordan, then you do what you can. But Isaiah Thomas really came out strong, I thought, to start the game. He had 27 points in the first half. And he's kind of been up and down lately for the Kings, and it was nice to see him bounce back tonight. Unfortunately, that wasn't enough for the Kings, and realistically, they didn't get anything else out of the other two of their big three tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Cousins had a decent game. The 7 turnovers sticks out as like a glaring, oh my gosh. But John, I feel like I need to get a dead horse and just sit here in my house and beat it while we're talking on the Cowbell Kingdom Road Recap show. The reason why the Kings lost this game is because they got blown out in the third quarter. The reason why they get blown out in the third quarter is because Oklahoma City was able to take Thabu Cephalosha, who is a outstanding defender, and shift him over and shut down Isaiah Thomas. And why were they able to do this? The same reason they are every single night, Pinky. Because Marcus Thornton is no longer an NBA player. I may be angry and bitter because the 49ers just lost, but I'm going to call it as it is. Marcus Thornton is killing the Sacramento Kings' chances to win any ball games. Again, 0 for 3, 20 minutes. Turned the ball over 3 times. 0 points in the starting lineup from your shooting guard. And the reason why they're able to shift Thabu Cephalosha over is because they literally could have put a potted plant over to guard Marcus Thornton. It's just atrocious, John. It's atrocious. Isaiah Thomas should have gone for 40-plus, 45, 50. He had it going. He was unstoppable. And he was stopped because his team doesn't have a shooting guard.
Yeah, it looked like he was getting things rolling there in the first half. Really looked like he would go for 50 tonight because the Thunder didn't have an answer for him. But yeah I mean that's where the issues come into play, where you don't get much production out of your shooting guards. Ben McLemore tonight playing 20 minutes. Obviously some of those coming in garbage time when the game was already decided. He finishes with 9 points on the 3 of 6 shooting from the field for the Kings. But that's
it's time to go back to him. It's time to go back to McLemore.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, at the same time too, I look at Rudy Gay did not have a good night.
No.
He got ejected at the 10:01 mark of the fourth quarter. Just didn't obviously look like he didn't like the way the game was being called or officiated, and he had some words for one of the officials. And he finished with 6 points and 4 assists. I mean, granted, we look at the Kings and their three best players, Isaiah Thomas and DeMarcus Cousins and Rudy Gay. And honestly, in my opinion, when those guys are all rolling, if they get to their 20 points per game average, they're more likely to win than they are lose. And tonight, the Oklahoma City Thunder managed to make DeMarcus Cousins a volume shooter, 17 shots, just 16 points, and Rudy Gay was, again, as I mentioned, completely ineffective with just 6 points on 7 field goals attempts. So
really odd to see him get ejected too. Really odd.
Yeah,
To me, that was some residual from the previous game. I don't think he'd kind of gotten over the officiating in the previous game. And it looked like he was having a reasonable conversation, or at least trying to, and picked up 2 technicals. That was really strange.
Yeah, don't know exactly what happened there. But again, we look at our other points here on our 3 things to watch. Does DeMarcus Cousins get his 14th straight double-double? Yes, he does. Again, I mentioned 16 points and 14 rebounds for DeMarcus. He's at that point where he's an automatic double-double. This was one of those old DeMarcus double-doubles where you think, okay, that's not, it was more like padded stats here. I mean, he got the double-double after the game was pretty much decided in the fourth quarter. Malone left him in the game there, but
he brought him back in the game. He brought him back in the game after the game was already decided. I was kind of surprised there.
Yeah, he also brought Isaiah back in the game too when he was, a couple points away from scoring or matching his career high. But DeMarcus Cousins now has 14 straight double-doubles. That's the longest active double-double streak in the NBA this season, besting Kevin Love and Chris Paul. And that is a record for most consecutive double-doubles recorded in in Sacramento era history for the Sacramento Kings. He bests the previous record set by LaSalle Thompson in the 85-86 season.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those games where Cousins really didn't play that great, and you would have liked to have seen more. What really, really hurt the Kings is those 7 turnovers. Cousins had 3 blocks. You like to see that. He had 2 steals. He had 14 rebounds. But honestly, the turnovers were just egregious too. They just were bad all the way around. I know in the third quarter when the Kings were starting to let the game slip away, he got the ball on a fast break and he tried to make some ridiculous pass to Rudy Gay that just shot right out of bounds. He's got to do a better job, and a lot of time that means he's got to find his guards, and so it's a good game on paper for Cousins, but realistically, he was as much a reason why the Kings lost as a reason why the Kings, could have won in this one.
Okay, last point here on our 3 things to watch. Can the Kings make Kevin Durant uncomfortable? I don't think any person on the face of this earth can make Kevin Durant uncomfortable. I mean, he finished with 30 points on 10 of 15 shooting, 3 of 5 from 3-point land, 9 assists, 6 rebounds. He was coming off that career high night against the Golden State Warriors on Friday, where he finishes with 54 points. Kevin Durant, and to me, it was kind of funny watching Durant tonight. It was kind of like an effortless 30. It was a quiet 30 for him, but he's averaging 30 points per game this season. And the Kings, especially with Rudy Gay, not really being as engaged in this game as you would like him to be. I thought that kind of gave Kevin Durant some other opportunities and other chances that he may have not had, or he may have had, just because he's such a great scorer.
Yeah, Rudy Gay, I mean, he had no answer for Kevin Durant at all, but no one has any answer for Kevin Durant. The dude is just so silky smooth. I mean, he can take you off the dribble. It doesn't matter where he's at on the floor. He can drop a ball in. I mean, to me, it always looks like he's shooting down at the basket. It doesn't matter where he's at on the floor. He's just so long, so tall, and so fluid. So, Yeah, he's impressive to watch. You know, John, to go away from the Kevin Durant conversation, I think the one big thing that we got to see out of the Kings tonight, which was nice, Carl Landry makes his season debut. We get to see Carl Landry in a Kings uniform after this is game 39 in the season. He was out with a left hip flexor that he actually tore, had to have surgery, was out 3 to 4 months. We've been seeing Carl on the court during pregame, and we've been seeing a little bit more and more of him. I was surprised. I was surprised when I got information early before the game that he was going to play. John, did you expect Carl Landry?
I wasn't quite sure if he was going to play. By the way, hat tip to you for breaking that news today. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. I kind of got the sense that maybe Carl was a little bit closer when they waived Hamidi Njai. Obviously, I think that was more so a move that was financial than it was, hey, Carl Landry's ready to come back. They were up against that guaranteed contract deadline. But, we had seen Carl on the court working out a bit more pregame, and to me, he looks like he's in a lot better shape than he was entering training camp. I thought when he entered training camp in Santa Barbara, he was a little bit thicker, not quite yet in playing shape, so to speak, but he's really worked himself, I think, into NBA shape the last month or so, and it was good to see him back out there on the floor. And I think that's another guy that adds another element of talent to this team, especially to their bench. We see their bench kind of have a little bit of a surge lately with Derek Williams and Jimmer Fredette finding their niche there. Now, if Carl Landry can find his role off the bench as well, and really fit in with those guys, and it adds another dimension to, I think, the Kings and just their competitiveness overall this year.
Yeah, John, I think what it does is it allows Malone to get a little bit more creative too, because now he has a legitimate post scorer, a guy who's done it for years. Not to take away from what Jimmer and Derek Williams have done, but let's be honest, they've only done it for like an 8-game or 10-game stretch. What Carl Landry brings, and I had people hit me up on Twitter, do you think that Carl Landry takes over from Jason Thompson at the power forward spot? I think the answer is absolutely not. The fact is that the Kings have 3 guys in their starting lineup that can give you between 65 and 75 points a night, and what you don't want to do is try to add another scorer to that, because that doesn't work out. There's only one ball, and that's why Jason Thompson has struggled a lot of times this season. Tonight he has a nice night, 11 points, 10 rebounds in 30 minutes. I think we're going to see a lot more Jason Thompson playing backup center. I think we're going to see a tighter rotation at the bigs. We're going to see Thompson, Landry, Cousins primarily, maybe a little bit of Quincy Acee, and maybe a little bit of Rudy Gay if they go small, or Derek Williams if they go small. But I think what Carl Landry gives you is, number one, the dude can just flat out score in the post. Sure, he can hit a 15-foot baseline jump shot, which is nice. But, 9 minutes tonight, 3 of 4 from the field, 6 points, 4 rebounds. This guy has such incredible patience in the post. I love watching Carl Landry play. He's methodical, he's tough, and he's just another weapon. So now you've got 3 weapons off the bench. And again, I think it allows Malone to kind of tinker with what he's doing with the starting lineup, because you've got 10 to 12, maybe 14 points a game off the bench from Carl Landry each and every night once he's in full swing, which might take another 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I thought too, James, that this was a perfect game. Him being active tonight, we weren't sure if he was going to play. I didn't think he would play if this game was close, but obviously, in the fourth quarter, the Thunder really separated themselves from the Kings, and it gave Mike Malone a chance to go to Carl, and I think that's good. I think that's good for him to kind of get like some preseason action, so to speak, just in the flow of that game, to get his feet underneath him. So he got an opportunity to get out there and play a little bit, in a game that was already lost for the Kings, but it's a good way to work himself back into the rotation and work himself back into the flow of the team. Because now, here we go. It's like a new trade again. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like they made a trade last month, and then they made a trade in November. Well, this is like their third trade because Carl Landry hasn't played at all this year. Granted, he spent a couple days of training camp and, of course, all of September, working out with the guys in Sacramento and also working out in Santa Barbara. But this is brand new for him because a lot of the guys that he's now playing with weren't on the team when he last played. So.
Yeah, and John, it should be pointed out too that Michael Malone has a long-term relationship with Carl Landry as well. They know Malone knows exactly what Landry can give him because last year he played with Carl in Golden State. The year and a half before that, the year and part of the year before that, he coached Carl in New Orleans. So basically, for the last 2.5 seasons coming into this year, Malone and Carl Landry were together. They are very familiar with each other and sort of what Landry can bring to the table for this team. So I think that's an added bonus. There's some continuity here with schemes and defensive rotations and offensive sets that you don't have to work through, even though Landry's missed all this time. So it's a good thing.
Okay, let's wrap things up here on the Road Reaction postgame show. Again, the Kings losing 108-93 to the Oklahoma City Thunder on the road. Player of the game, I mean, this is second straight night. I think I'll go with a player from the losing team. I thought Isaiah Thomas was phenomenal. I think he did everything that he could in his own power to help the team win. He just didn't really get any help out from his teammates tonight. The 38 points, the career-high 38 points, 6 assists. I mean, he's just, James, I feel like Isaiah Thomas is kind of at a similar point, and some people may say, what are you talking about? But I feel like he's kind of at a similar point that Tony Parker was early on in his career when, there were doubts about him as to whether or not he was, the right point guard for the San Antonio Spurs. I remember there was one point where there were rumors about the Spurs maybe entertaining trading Tony Parker to the Seattle Sonics for Gary Payton. And I feel like, it's going to be some time, but, if Isaiah Thomas continues to grow and continues to progress as he has his last 3 years, he'll eventually earn the respect of everyone out there, because we kind of forget about it now because we just kind of regard Tony Parker as one of the best point guards in the game, a future Hall of Famer. But there was a time where Tony Parker was not considered that and was considered maybe a detriment to San Antonio's chances of winning. And I think Isaiah Thomas he's consistently gotten better every year, and he continues to prove people wrong. So big night for him.
Yeah, I'll also go with him as a player of the game. I mean, clearly Kevin Durant is on another planet. Clearly the second best player in the world behind LeBron James. With Isaiah Thomas, the one thing that I totally dig about watching him is that while we have people in the comments section go at Isaiah Thomas about his win-loss record and stuff like that, also, I don't think that you can really pin very many losses on Isaiah Thomas in his career as a King. The Kings are going to lose a lot of games because the Kings have no continuity, because the Kings haven't had enough talent. They're going to lose because of a lot of things. You're not going to lose because of Isaiah Thomas is on the floor. He has an incredible spirit. He wants to win more than any player that I've seen in Sacramento. He's a leader. He's a guy that you're going to, even on a good team, he would come in and make an immediate impact. He would be a leader on any team that he plays for. So, yeah, big game for him. Good to see him get a new career high. Don't really like that he was back in the game to get that career high. I thought to pull Jimmer out of the game was pretty odd, and to me, Jimmer hadn't done anything wrong. And again, I would like to see Isaiah Thomas play alongside Jimmer for that, at least for a few minutes a game, especially with Thornton just out to lunch. So.
All right, James, I think that'll do it for this edition of the Road Reaction post-game show. Hey, before we go, any thoughts on the NFC Championship game?
I thought it was a really hard-fought game. I thought that Colin Kaepernick once again proved that he's not ready for that to be a passer. His game clock management down the stretch was absolutely atrocious. Watching Anquan Bolden get bent down and like tie his shoelaces for 10 seconds, under 2 minutes, while the Niners are trying to march to score, was like the oddest thing I've seen. And then again, the Niners get all the way down to the 19. They've got 2 timeouts. 35 seconds left on the clock, something like that. There was no reason to go for it, especially against Richard Sherman right there. You had at least 5 plays left in the game, plus spikes and everything else. I think that was a moment where having a guy who realistically has let the Niners down all season long in the red zone in crunch time, it hurt them. So I would have liked to have seen a little more, I don't know, a better idea of what he was doing, and I don't think that Kaepernick had any idea what he was doing down the stretch. He made some nice plays to get them in position, but the Niners got inside the 20 a lot of times this year and not done anything with it. That's why Phil Dawson is like an MVP candidate.
Well, at the same time, I know there are some people griping about the officiating in this game, but you look at the end of the game, they have that one last drive to win it all, and at that point it's like, well, it's on you. So he wasn't able to come through in the end. Richard Sherman, by the way, going off with the rants with Aaron Andrews, that was quite clear on him.
Be a pro, Richard Sherman. I mean, great play, hat tip, but be a pro. That was tacky. I think the tweet that I saw that I retweeted was. If you want to show your kids how to act after they win a game, show them Richard Sherman and then tell them to do the exact opposite.
All right, then. On that note, we're wrapping up the Cowboy Kingdom Road Reaction postgame show. Final from Oklahoma City. The Thunder defeat the Kings 108-93, and we'll be back on Tuesday when the Sacramento Kings return to action. They take on the New Orleans Pelicans. In New Orleans, Tyreek Evans once again matching up against his old team, this time in his new stomping ground. So join us immediately following that game at around 6:40, 7 o'clock or so as we recap that game. So until then, we'll be back. So for James Ham, on Jonathan Santiago, thanks for tuning in to the Road Reaction postgame show here on CowbellKingdom.com.